So I'd like to talk with you a little bit about our custodians at the church. You may recall that before COVID and before we discontinued meeting regularly in person for worship and church activities, that we had two persons on our staff with custodian in their title. Gert Jackson was our weekly custodian, and she worked typically from 8 to noon, Monday through Friday, cleaning the church on a regular basis. And then we had Clint Emel, who is our Sunday custodian, and his responsibilities were less custodian-ish. His responsibilities had a lot to do with opening the church and turning on all the lights and opening the doors and making the coffee and the lemonade for our fellowship after worship and locking up everything afterwards, those kinds of things. He also helped if we had meals and prepared for those and also cleaned up after those. So those were the kinds of responsibilities that Clint was handling for a number of years pre-COVID. Well, after the church building was closed in the middle of March, both of our custodians really didn't have any work that they could do for us for a while. We applied and received the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan from the Small Business Association. We did receive that. And after receiving those funds, you could not make any changes to your staffing situation or your hours or your pay rate or anything like that for 2.5 months. And so that carried us through the end of August by the time that we received those funds. So from mid-March to end of August, their income was supported by this PPP loan. But they weren't able really to work in the church building. Well, after our COVID response team decided that beginning June 1st, that our space sharers could return to the building if they followed our COVID policy, we asked Gert if she would be willing to come back and begin working again in the middle of May to prepare the building for that June 1st date when our space sharers could return to the building. And she said yes, that she would love to come back. And so she began working in the middle of May. Already on the calendar, however, for a long time, Gert had been planning to retire at the end of July. So we knew we had a short window where Gert was going to continue to work for us, and we needed to hire somebody new to replace her and overlap a little bit so that Gert could train the new person. The personnel committee hired a new custodian, weekday custodian named Kiesla Cook, and she began that last week of July, and she worked with Gert that whole week. And then on Friday, July 31st, Gert handed her keys over to Kiesla, and Kiesla has been our weekday custodian ever since. In the case of Clint, however, Clint was only in the building on Sundays, and because we weren't meeting for in-person worship still, we didn't need him to turn on the lights and open the doors and make the coffee and then shut everything down again and do the kinds of things that he would typically do for us on Sundays. So the personnel committee came up with a plan. We did not want to let Clint go. We did not want him to lose his only source of income. And so what we did was we devised a plan that was mutually beneficial for Clint, for the church, and also for the chef. Chef Gregory has gone home. He's no longer in the facility where he was for so long, and he needs some help around the house. And so we asked Chef's daughter, Bianca, and we asked Clint if they were willing to make an arrangement where Clint could come for a couple of hours, 2 days a week, to help Chef around his garden and around his home. And it was mutually agreed upon that that would be part of the way that Clint would continue to work and the church could continue to pay him. In addition to that, Clint also comes to the church grounds at least 1 hour each week and picks up trash, limbs. You know, we always have downed limbs and tree branches and that kind of thing, and just kind of tidies up the grounds. He doesn't enter the church building, but he just kind of patrols the grounds and makes sure that they're clean. So, because there's not as much activity in the church building, it's nice to have a set of eyes keeping track of the grounds and making sure that they look nice. So those are the arrangements that we have made with our custodians during this interim time. You'll have an opportunity to meet Kisla on another one of these videos, and I hope that you enjoy meeting her.